Tallboy.
Mr. Ralph McGill, who was the publisher of the Atlanta Constitution, was a very good friend of mine. And he thought that I did a good job of bridging the racial gap. As a matter of fact, his language was, you know, I like the way you approach the subject. Said you teach a lesson without preaching a sermon. And that was always his philosophy. And then he started engaging me into areas that were new to me. For instance, if he had a speaking engagement, he would accept it and then at the last minute back out and said that I would be representing him and I would be the substitute. Well, this happened before a group of white religious journalists. And they were in Atlanta for a convention, and he asked me to go and substitute for him. And I spoke that day about how Dr. King respected the media a lot, and it helped him with his struggle. And he said, you can talk about dogs nipping at the rear end of children in a public pool, but when they showed it and wrote about it, then it made a difference. And so he had an enormous respect for the media. And then I injected my opinion, and I said, I don't have that same respect. Because here in Atlanta and across the country, you have these lily white stations. You've got editors. You have an assignment editor at a station who will send the reporter out to the scene of this denial, whether it's a swimming pool or a school. A white reporter with a white cameraman. They document this horrible story, come back to the station, give it to a lily white processor, who gives it to a lily white writer, who gives it to a lily white anchor, and they said, oh, gee, isn't this awful, another shutout. And I felt that this shutout was just as abominable. And that day, after I made that speech, I got calls from two of the TV stations here in Atlanta, and the embarrassment kind of pricked them, and they wanted to do something about it, and that started the ball rolling for them to talk to me about breaking the color barrier. Oh, it was acceptable to the African American community. It was bitter for the white community, but as it turned out, it all worked out very well because everybody was happy. Black Americans were glad to see, or Atlantans were glad to see me on television. And then the white people found out it wasn't all so bad after all, and I became a friend to so many people who just wrote to me and invited me to dinner, invited me this. And I got proposals for marriage, too, from white people who were watching. So it really spread because it was considered to be a successful program. It was very positive and was inclusive. My show included whites as well as blacks as guests.
Think big, think tall, think